Rangaho Chris Bishop.
Let's put on the record for the House the reason the Labour Party is opposed to this bill. Spite. Simple spite. That is the simple reality of it. Because the Labour Party has this view of itself, this vainglorious view of itself, that it's the party that does nationhood. It's the party of Norman Kirk at Waitangi. It's the party of sending the ships over to Mururoa. It's the party of David Lange at the Oxford Union giving that glorious speech. Look, I quoted David Lange in my maiden speech. I agree that he was a great statesman. But the Labour Party does not have a monopoly on nationhood, and it does not have a monopoly on taking New Zealand forward. So let's be very clear. The reason the Labour Party is opposed to this bill is spite and jealousy. They are jealous that it's a national-led government led by a Prime Minister they despise that is putting to the people the idea of changing the New Zealand flag. And they're jealous of it because it is Labour Party policy to have a referendum on the flag. As late as September last year, in fact as late as last week on their website, it is Labour Party policy to consider a flag referendum. And my good friend Charles Chevelle had a members' bill in the ballot some time ago, when the much lamented Charles Chevelle, he had a members' bill on the ballot to have a flag referendum. The Labour Party is all over this, Mr Speaker, except for the fact that it's the National Party doing it. And it's really sad, because actually most Labour members, I reckon, agree with changing the flag. Andrew Little certainly does, because last year he talked about my personal opinions, we should have something more relevant to an independent, small Asia-Pacific nation. I think a referendum is a suitable way to deal with an issue that can be very polarising. And so the government, which took to the election a policy of having a referendum and duly got elected, has introduced legislation. And what do we have from the Labour Party today? Well, they're going to oppose it. It's really, really sad. Mr Speaker, New Zealand does not discuss nationhood and the issue of national identity enough, in my view. And this bill and the process that we're undertaking is part of that ongoing conversation about what New Zealand is and what we should stand for. And the question of the flag is important. And yes, it's just a symbol, but symbols matter. Symbols matter. The issue of whether or not in the 21st century, modern-day New Zealand is best represented by a flag that has a Union Jack on it and the Southern Cross, Mr Speaker, is an important one. Or should we move to a flag that better represents New Zealand's national identity? We are no longer a colony of Great Britain. We are no longer tied by the apron strings to that country, to the mother country. We have moved on from that, Mr Speaker. And that question as to whether or not we should have a flag that better represents that new reality is something that New Zealanders are going to grapple with and have been grappling with during this referendum process. So, Mr Speaker, the process is important. And we heard from Mr Hipkins over there that New Zealanders don't care about it, they're totally unengaged, and to the extent that they do care about the flag referendum process, they're absolutely opposed to change. Well, the ultimate referendum, Mr Speaker, is the referendum we're going to have. And the logical extension of the Labour Party's argument on this stuff is that we should just govern by opinion poll, is that we should just put everything out to the people and have a fleeting cursory view of public opinion at one moment in time. No, actually that's not the right way to go about things. The right way to go about things on an issue as important as this is through a deliberative, consultative process in which people get a chance to consider the issues widely and fully, then have a say, and then they get a vote on it. So it's not a New Zealand Herald online poll, Mr Cosgrove. It's not some smidgen of public opinion at any one fixed point in time, Mr Speaker. It is through a deliberative process, through a referendum. And so, if the Labour Party is correct, and if Mr Hipkins is correct, and he very really is on most other matters, but if he is correct, and that people don't want to change the flag, they will say so. And this government will respect that view. We will respect that view. But if they vote for change, Mr Speaker, then the flag will change. And the question for the Labour Party is, after having exhausted all of this hot air, arguing against giving New Zealanders a say about the flag and the future of the flag in this country, will they respect the outcome if people vote in favour of a change of flag? That is the question for them. This referendum does not disrespect veterans, Mr Speaker. It does not do that. And on the issue of whether or not something is the right time, well, again, you could make that argument about almost any change that the government does. Well, it's never the right time. It hasn't been the right time since the 1970s. It hasn't been the right time since the 1980s. It wasn't the right time back in 2005 when hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders signed a petition to change the flag. That is an argument for the status quo. It is a conservative argument, and it's just hilarious to see the so-called progressive party of social change over there. The party that loves to tell itself it's all in favour of moving New Zealand forward, gives speech after speech in which they say it's not the right time, you know, we really must, I'm not sure New Zealanders are in favour of this. They sound like the conservative fuddy-duddy party that the Labour Party has become. It is truly tragic, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this has been, the committee, the Select Committee, the Justice and Electoral Committee that considered this bill did a very good job of considering the process. And we considered the suggestion from Trevor Mallard and from others that we should put a yes/no question in the referendum, in the first referendum that we're going to have quickly. But actually, we considered whether or not that was a good idea, and we came to the view by majority that that was not a good idea. And the reason for that, Mr Speaker, is that, firstly, the Ministry of Justice officials recommended against it. And the reason for that is that it biases the referendum in favour of the status quo. It doesn't lead to a neutral, objective referendum. So in our view, that was not a good public policy outcome, and that is why the majority of the Select Committee decided that the structure that we have at the moment, which was the one recommended by officials to be the most neutral and objective referendum possible, is what we should do. Now, there were some suggestions we should just have a yes or no referendum to the start with. Just put one question to the people: do you want to change the flag or not? The problem with that, as somebody explained to me at a public meeting yesterday, is that they may very well be in favour of changing the flag. They just don't know what it's going to change to, and until they have the options available, they're not sure. So that, with respect, is a silly suggestion by people who make it, including New Zealand First. And Dennis O'Rourke, during the Select Committee process, asked one question of all the submitters, which was, why don't we just have a yes or no referendum question first? And I've just given the reason, for Dennis's benefit. The reason is that it's hard to make up your mind whether or not you're in favour of change or not, unless you know what you're changing to. So we decided to have the view that you should let people have a say on the options first, and then it will be a binary up or down vote on what the change will be, Mr Speaker. Sir, we don't discuss constitutional questions in this House enough. We don't discuss issues of national identity in this House. This is a good bill put forward by a good government. It is opposed by parties out of pure spite and jealousy.
Members, the question is that the amendments recommended by the Justice and Electoral Committee by majority be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 opposed.
New
The
Zealand.
vote will be conducted in silence, government members.
12 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
2 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Members, the ayes are 63, the noes are 58. The motion is agreed to. Members, the question now is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Party vote is called for.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
2 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Members, the ayes are 63 and the noes are 58. The motion is agreed to.
New Zealand Flag Referendums Bill, second reading.
This bill is set down for committee stage next sitting day. Call on Government Order of the Day number 2.